पास बहुत सारे क्वेश्चंस हैं, बहुत ज्यादा
Okay.
annoying questions हैं.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I'm just gonna throw them in your direction. बहुत common sense questions, but I think वो मुझे काफी bother करते हैं. So I want some experts' opinion on this, and I want your ज्ञान,
Right.
obviously. So we all know कि social media ने पूरा attention span का बेजा कर दिया, right? And we obviously also know that social media बहुत important है. I remember I was off Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, and I was missing out on a lot. Not a lot of fun, but like a lot of opportunities. And especially because अभी तो मैं creative field में नहीं हूँ, but अगर मैं creative field में हूँ, then it becomes all the more important that you're out there, right? So बहुत सारी opportunities social media पे खुलती हैं. The question is, when we know कि एक level का हमारा brain rot हो चुका है, right? And we also understand the importance of it, how do we fix it?
Cool. Tough question to start with. But Juhi, I'm glad to be on your podcast. Thank you so much for having me. Okay, cool. So first things first. No doubts about the fact that social media is all-consuming, and there is insane amount of overwhelming amount of information, knowledge, signal, everything available to us, and there is no way you can escape that. मतलब जैसे ही आप फोन उठाओगे, moment you pick up a phone, you have 20 notifications from every app that you can imagine. Even the UPI apps in India are trying to throw you notifications that are no use to you as a consumer of a banking app, right? So notifications are marketeers and technology persons' way of having you looped into their app. So there is no escaping that for sure if you live in the modern world. In fact, there is technology now that can actually figure out that aap airport pe ho, and it will throw a SMS at you saying that, hey, you are at the airport, why don't you take services of an international roaming service provider, or why don't you go to a food court to drink like whatever cheap Starbucks or whatever. The point is, we cannot escape notifications, but what we can do for sure is, like most of our pets, that's a word I want to use, you can tame them. So for example, if you have a very well-trained cat or a dog, I'm not a pet person, but all the friends who are pet parents, they've been able to tell me that they've been able to train their pets so well that the pets have became their slaves. And what that means is that if they tell their pet dog to crawl, to roll, to stay, to eat, the dog tends to listen to it. So if you start to treat your mobile phone and your notifications as that, you probably have a way out. And if you're unable to do that, if you're somebody who loves your pets a lot and you are unable to tame them, rein them in, you probably will have a tough time. So think of it like that, right? Like any technology, you use it to your advantage, and you don't use it when you don't want to use it. So there are tiny things that you can do. You can sandbox your time on the internet in certain windows. There's a friend of mine who is on Instagram for 10 minutes only, and even if she is in the middle of a conversation on Instagram, she will say, my 10 minutes are up, I will text you on WhatsApp, but I am logging off from Instagram. So that takes a lot of self-control to do that. She's been able to do that. I do not know I have that or not. I did a tiny experiment that for the whole month of, I think, March or April, I don't recall, I was not on Instagram, and I was not on Twitter, and I was not on LinkedIn. I was on LinkedIn briefly, but that worked out well for me. In fact, I plan to do the same thing from the 1st of June. I will not be on any social media platform apart from LinkedIn and Twitter. And that too, I will post with scheduling tools. I will not do a manual conversation per se on that. So use internet and use tools and use technology as your slave, as your pet. And if you're able to control that, I think you'll be able to manage it well. Also, these things are very, very easy to say in a podcast, in a conversation, but it is extremely difficult to implement in real life. So I do not have any practical answers to it, but if you're aware of it, I think you'll be able to tame it. So that's my first part of the answer to the first part of the question. The second part, I think there is absolutely no escaping the advantages of the internet. I mean, Juhi, you and I probably met over internet. Think of it like that. If there was no internet and no social media, there is no reason why somebody like you and me will ever be able to sit across a table and have a conversation. There is no way that I'd be in your city and we'd grab a coffee and we'll probably become friends. So internet offers tons and tons of advantages. You need to be able to find a way to make it work for you. And depending on your profession, I think there are different platforms that will emerge. So if you are the creative kinds, I think you can spend a lot of time on Instagram. If you are a startup kinds, you can spend a lot of time on Reddit and on Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it. If you are a corporate kinds, you could be on LinkedIn. And if you are a nobody kinds, you could be on whatever. Right now it doesn't make a difference because you're nobody. So what you need to do is find out who you are, what you stand for, and then identify a channel, a platform that you could be on. And I've seen this in action, in play multiple times. Like for example, Chandni, who's listening into this conversation, she's trying to build something for women in perimenopause, and she's trying to do it for global women. So there is no way she will be able to meet people while she's in Bombay or Bangalore. So one of the things that I have been forcing her is to see if she can move to a Bangkok, a Singapore, a Dubai, a US for that matter, because she'll be in the middle of the action. So my point is that even on the internet, you need to find a corner of internet that you could be at, and then you find your own spot there. You know how they say कि मैंने इस कोने में अपनी छोटी सी दुनिया बना ली है. So you need to be able to make your own small little world in that corner of the internet, and I think life will be okay if you do that. So that, Juhi, is my long answer to the short question.
Okay, great. Now, because of this, obviously, we're looking at some sort of impact on films as well. There was this podcast, Romesh Ranganathan and Jamila Jamil, right? And this is where she mentions कि scripts आजकल ऐसी लिखी जा रही है because people have very short attention spans. Scripts are being written in a way कि आप scroll करते करते movie देख पा रहे हो because you're not
Yeah,
actually
yeah.
consuming the film. You're just sitting and you're scrolling. And films के dialogues इतने short, इतने concise रख दिए गए हैं that you don't actually have to pay attention. Otherwise, you were forced to pay attention for films. So, would this adversely impact films, or we're going to see something nice coming out of this?
So, uh, uh, multiple layers, to be honest, to answer this question. So, the medium of the film itself. Back in the day when the film originated as a medium, we didn't have these monsters in our phone that that were hooked on, that you were hooked on to for 24/7. So we had to make an occasion out of watching a film and go there and actually uh, uh, if not enjoy, but be in that world for that 10 seconds, 1 minute, 2 minute, 3 minute, whatever window. So that right now, what has happened is that medium has lost its charm. Back in the day when I was growing up, when I was 20, 22, going to a film was a occasion. People would prepare for a film for weeks, and then they would get their popcorn and tell their families and take their friends, and it was like a communal experience, and it was amazing to see Shah Rukh Khan on the screen and 50 people dancing and talking about it. So it was a communal experience. And what has happened is that over time, we as society, and I can talk about India, if not for the entire world, have become very, very individual. I mean, there are times when I miss the fact that at any given point in time, my house, my home, my college, my office would have like random 20 people there hanging out and being part of a group and a community. Today, most people I know live alone, and even if they live with their spouses, loved ones, they are alone in their heads. I mean, physically you could be in the same bed in the same room, but you're alone in there in your head. So we are staring at this starkly different world that I lived in when I was younger. With that as a context and a background, obviously the attention spans are smaller. The need for the medium to serve the audience is smaller. Back in the day, the audiences didn't have an option. Audiences had to consume whatever was thrown their way. A filmmaker would throw a boring 3 hour long film. We had to watch it. There was no option. Today, every minute there's a new film that releases, and there is so much content that it's not funny. So even the creative folks, the artists, have to tote the line drawn by the audiences. Today, audiences demand quick, pacey, racy action films. They demand sappy love stories. They demand peppy songs and numbers. All of that is being demanded, and the creative medium has to serve that. And if they don't serve it, they will not be able to survive. I mean, gone are the days that artists would say that, hey, this is the film that I've made. If you want to see it, you're welcome. If you don't want to see it, you can skip it. But today, everybody will have to make a film that artists will that the audiences will see. In fact, in the industry, what is happening is आपने बात करी छोटे डायलॉग से जुई. I'm saying another change has happened around me. People are now making micro dramas, and what this means is it's a 1 minute long scrollable video that you see on your phone in a vertical format. Gone is that CinemaScope widescreen film that you see. People are now making micro dramas that are 1 minute long, and then they are so addictive that the way you watch reels, you're watching the same micro drama all the time, and there is an entire industry that has sprung up, and there are companies from India that are making micro dramas for the US market and for the European market. So आप जो बोल रहे हो वो तो ठीक है, उसका evolution और आगे हो गया है to a point that films are being made for 1 minute long episodes, and people are lapping up to it because it serves into their attention span. It serves into the kind of content they want to consume. Because मेरे को खाना बनाते बनाते, commute करते करते, बात करते करते, coffee wait करते करते चाहिए. One of the words I use a lot in my writing is something called click monkeys or thumb scrolling monkeys. We've all become those monkeys who are just scrolling with our thumbs all the time, and we have become so immune to it that we are not even seeing what is on the content. We have stopped noticing things like the background behind me. Back in the day, somebody would have said कि तेरे पीछे ये photo लगी है, ये book है, ये bag hai, ye gate hai, blah blah blah. Today nobody bothers about that. They are not even listening to me, you and me. I'll be surprised if somebody is watching this. They'll be able to look at our faces, Juhi. They will probably be just listening to our words, catch on to the keywords, and they move on from there on. So I think that's the word we are inheriting. I don't think we can do anything about it. It's the part of evolution. I don't really have a very deep thought in terms of how to fix it, but I know that the world that we live in has shifted shape, and I do not know how to make a shift on that. So that's my thought.
So are we afraid of boredom, essentially?
I'll say we are not afraid of boredom, but we are very, very afraid of loneliness. And that's a funny way to put it. Uh, you know, we are probably in the middle of the loneliness epidemic, pandemic. I do not know what is the right English word. You can find that out. But we are bang in the middle of that, and we are afraid of that. And we will do whatever it takes to fill that with some sort of company. That company could be in shape of these scrolling videos that we do, could be in shape of these meaningless conversations that we have with people on the internet, could be Twitter, could be Instagram, could be Reddit. It could also be in shape of us becoming deep fans of things that we don't really care about. The amount of passion that people show towards a cricket team, to a Bollywood star, to a politician, to ideology is going to go rise, because it allows us to get away from loneliness. We don't want to look in, we want to look out, and we want to look out and we want to look at people around us who are like us, who are probably hollow, and yet they want something larger to engulf them. So I think it's not about boredom, it's about loneliness. And one of the ways loneliness manifests, if you ask me, is boredom. That like, okay, I have a challenge. If people are watching this video, pause the conversation, and for 1 minute, I want you to close your eyes, remove all the stimuli from the external world, and see how you feel. And if you're able to stay there for 1 minute, you will have my respect for sure. I think yeah, we are not in the boredom epidemic. We are probably in the loneliness epidemic. That's my thought. Nobody's bored, man. मतलब मेरे टेबल पे 50 चीजें देखने के लिए. I don't think I'm bored. I'm in fact overstimulated. There is no the world around me will not let me be bored. Juhi, if you look out of your window, I know you live in probably a jungle and a campus, but if you look at any of your friends, talk to your family, talk to your parents, talk to your whatever, they will live in a place wherein they look out the window and they will have a million things crying for attention. It could be a honk of a bus, it could be a billboard, it could be a newspaper, it could be an Instagram notification, it could be an email thing, it could be this drum that I can play from my
Oh, wow.
tool. Yeah, I can play
Wow.
this. See, I can play this. I mean, there is no boredom happening here, right? And I can have a piano at the back when I talk. Oh wow, that's so cool. So yeah, point is, I don't think people are bored. I think people are overstimulated, stimulated, whatever is the right English word. And the larger epidemic is of loneliness. That is what I think needs fixing more than anything else. So that.
But I was coming to the broader understanding of, like, say you're waiting for a cup of coffee at Starbucks. It's just going to take 5 minutes. Can you just stand there for 5 minutes without scrolling on your phone? That is what I was coming to. Is that
You
possible?
can't. I don't know people who can do that. I mean, I literally live at a Starbucks. I mean, when I say live at a Starbucks, like I'm there, man. I'm there. So, my thought is that I have not seen single person who's simply waiting for a coffee. Either they're on their phone, they're talking to a barista, they're chatting with somebody else. मतलब नहीं है यार लोग वो नहीं कर रहे हैं. I don't know how to explain this. Uh, um, I don't think people are um, uh, uh, able to think only that one thing. That's my thought. So
Okay. Connecting to the broader question of AI and attention spans, do you think it has taken away our ability to read? Now, I speak as someone who works in academia and research, and you kind of have to read a lot, right? So, reading about 200 pages of academic stuff in a week is just normal at undergraduate level, right? You progress to PhD and you're reading about 500 to 1,000 pages a week. Now, the question is, because it's sort of important for us to actually read so much stuff, people are skimping on it because AI exists. So, what would require you about 8 hours of study is now done within like a few seconds. So, you sit down
yeah,
for half an hour, you get the gist of the paper, but that is essentially taking away the very aspect of academia of deep diving into something. So you're no longer deep diving. You're just
yeah.
skimming through, you're getting all these shortcuts. Do you think it's impacting our ability to read? We've got all these, I see apps, I'm forgetting the name of these apps. They have these summaries of books. And I don't think
Yeah.
those books are very hard. You can actually finish a book off in a
Sketch
matter
notes,
of 4 hours
spring
or
notes, something.
something.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. So do you think
So
it's taken away our ability to read?
it has. So let me respond to this in a different manner. You spoke about academia. Let me talk about reading in general or deep diving in general. So there are two reasons why you consume content in a long form manner. In academia, you want to be thorough. You want to cover all the bases. You want to present both sides of the story before you take a stand and opinion. And then you want to validate it and you want to have an antithesis and so and so forth. Right? That's one part of it. The other part of it is joy of reading. Like for example, I was at a bookstore with somebody yesterday. I don't know who it was. No, we were in an office, and outside the office they had a wall of fake books. You know how they only have the spines, and all the books were The Count of Monte Cristo by Alexander Dumas, whatever. Now, now I have grown up reading The Count of Monte Cristo, like 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 I read it every day for I think 6 months because it's a thick, fat book and small
Yeah.
font, and it's a tough read, and there is so much happening, so much exposition that you're in the world. I read Count of Monte Cristo for the joy of reading. I was not reading it for writing a thesis paper on how French literature was in I don't know man whatever years it was written in. So I'm saying so there are two things to it. If the joy of long form deep dive learning experiences is gone. So, for example, books can also be I mean, I can talk about cricket. There was a time when you would watch a 5 day cricket match, and now we are already talking about T5. I don't know if you know this, but they are now creating a format wherein they'll have 5 overs between teams and they will play 5 formats. T20 तो पुराना हो गया, अभी T5 की बात कर रहे हैं. So from
Okay.
5 days of cricket to 5 overs of cricket. So that has become snack sized. Anyways, we spoke about films. From a 3 hour film, we are talking of 1 minute thumb scroller. So that's got snackable. Reading has got snackable. Films has got snackable. Cricket has got snackable. So the joy of long form pieces is gone. In fact, it'll come to a point wherein we will take specific holidays wherein we'll do long form things. I can totally visualize that in few months, if not if not sooner, there'll be retreats wherein they will say that you will come there for 5 days and all you will do is read one book in those 5 days and you will live a slow, deliberate life. I think that will happen. On academia, my thought is different. Now, academia also has, in my opinion, two kinds of people. One who are purists, who are passionate, who want to push the human knowledge beyond what we have already. And then others are the one who probably want the degree or the diploma because they want to prove a point to somebody. Like I would love to have a PhD. I don't care about adding new information to the world around me, but I just want to have a doctor attached to my name. But the point is, point is, in academia, there are some people who will remain purists, and I think they will continue to be around. But broadly, my sense is that a time will come when they will disappear. You know how those tough languages disappeared? Like Sanskrit, for example, used to be the lingua franca of, I think, of India. I do not know, I could be wrong, but it was a very, very easily understood, spoken, communicated language. It has gone because it takes effort to learn. I think uh, academia will suffer, and the good part will be that the ones who are really passionate will stay, will be around, and the ones who are in the riffraff will be thrown away. Like look at an IM degree. There are, I think, 29. I don't even know how many IMs are there, and there I don't know how many short-term courses IMs are offering, because people don't really care about learning. People don't really care about what an MBA does to you. They care about the stamp that IIM product. So same thing will happen in academia. The ones who want it because they want it will get it with few minutes of a study every day, and the ones who are keen on really pushing it will continue to push conversation. And look at it in from places like Wikipedia, places like long form blogs. I mean, I was talking to a friend of mine, Pradeep. He's not here. I had invited him to be here. He's saying that, the number of people who are revolting against Twitter. I mean, when I say Twitter, I mean short form texting and going back to long form writing is huge. Now, it probably is a fringe group today, but at a point in time, that fringe group will become large enough and meaningful enough for people to take notice. When would that happen? I do not know. But there is some fringe groups that will make that happen. Similar things will happen in academia. Similar things will happen in this long form joy of learning and yeah, that's my thought. So yeah.
Okay, that's nice. So now I have different questions, but this is about a bit of marketing and consumer preferences, etc. So I'm obviously a consumer, and I see
Yeah.
that it's just becoming hard for me to sort of trust Indian brands because
Right.
मैं काफी Shark Tank, and I say Shark Tank because when they're coming in talking about differentiating their product from the you know available products, they're constantly saying like we're trying to be like palm oil free, refined oil free,
Oh,
we're
yeah.
providing protein, etc. And essentially वो एक बार के लिए you get the money from the investors and things like that, and then the quality declines. And then you've got all these Trustified and all these YouTube channels which say कि यार इसमें तो ये ऐसा है. I started using this brand called Dr. Shades the first time I started my skincare journey. उसका sunscreen use किया because everyone was talking about it. This was back in 2023. And I remember मेरा skin एकदम सही हो गया. And 2 years, 3 years down the line, I was back in India and I wanted to buy the same stuff. And everyone on Reddit was talking about कि उसमें photo stability तो है ही नहीं, उसके filters हमने lab test करवा के देखे हैं and all of that. And then it comes down to influencer marketing and things like that. But once you've got the consumer base, उसके बाद आप छोड़ देते हो. The quality control goes out of the window, and it's the same with I think Getaway. Getaway is another brand that I tried, right? Uska Shark Tank mein maine dekha. And the entire premise was, I want to make healthy stuff because I suffer from it. I want to see like people consuming more protein because we're becoming like more conscious of it. And then when you actually get it tested, you realize ki usme protein content utna hai nahi and all of that. And there are videos on the internet talking about it. So the question is it becoming very hard as an Indian consumer to trust brands that are Indian? Because आप blindly सोचोगे कि हाँ कोई बाहर का brand है, Uniqlo है, quality. When you talk about like what is one brand that you can buy and you can wear for life, you have Uniqlo, you have M&S. But when you talk about Indian brands, I don't think they make it to the list. So that becomes a problem in my opinion. So what do you think the
Right.
solution is?
Right. Like, I'm a marketer and I sell things for a living. So I will be a little more biased towards, say, businesses. I will take
Okay.
businesses aside. So this is my biased answer, and I'm putting a disclaimer already. So आपने जो brands बोले, Getaway or whatever, Dr. Shades or whatever, I'm saying I do not know either of the brands. I have not used either. I cannot comment on those specific brands. But here is what I will say. See, any business has a growth curve, trajectory, etc., etc. Even a relationship, Joey, you and me have had a trajectory. We started very slow as strangers interacting on, say, whatever, and then we became friends, and then it became tapered, and then it became like that. And you know how and at the morning time you will get bored of me, I'll get bored of you, and it'll go down. Similarly, that is it. I mean, hopefully we don't go down, but you know how it is, right? You know, you drift
Yeah,
apart from friends. There must be many friends from your young age that you are no longer, say, in communication with. So that happens, right? My thought is that businesses also follow the same kind of a chart. So when they come in, instead of a long gestation period before they become friends, businesses, because they come on credible platforms like a Shark Tank, like a Shah Rukh Khan talking about a brand, because they start credible, you have high hopes from a brand when they come to your life. You use them once. If they serve you well, your expectations go up. If they don't serve you, expectations down. The challenge is when the consistency is not met. So I will not want to generalize that by saying that all Indian brands are shit. I would rather say that brands who are unable to be consistent are shit. The brands who are consistent are Indian international जो भी है वो अच्छे रहेंगे. Like Uniqlo की आपने बात करी, I'm sure Uniqlo may be a Japanese company, but the clothes probably get made in Vietnam or Philippines or Bangladesh or India or whatever, and yet the quality is there. Now there are a lot of international brands that have gone down to the dogs. Matlab, I love Starbucks, but there are friends of mine who tell me that Starbucks has gone from good to bad to worse to pathetic with time. But I am absolutely okay with that, right? Because my experience with Starbucks has been uh, consistent, okay, good for large part of my experience. So I may not want to say that the brands go to shit. My sense is that consistency becomes a problem. That is one. Second, I think what also happens is that India may, this is a generalization now, gross generalization. India, we don't stand for quality at all. We stand for quick bucks. We stand for saving our backsides. We stand for being able to make a quick buck. We stand for profiteering. We stand for, we stand for such things that do not allow quality to be given. हमने अभी इससे पहले 5 मिनट पहले 10 मिनट पहले बात करी कंटेंट की. Let's say there is a great filmmaker who's known to make super great films. Like, for example, imagine Alfred Hitchcock today making content for India. There is no way Hitchcock will be able to deliver the same value for this short-term attention span audiences that he's been delivering over so many, I don't know, so many decades. So even Hitchcock probably will disappoint you at a point in time, Juhi, and he'll disappoint me, and he'll disappoint other folks also. So I think what is going to happen is the following. A, consumers are divinely discontent. ये Jeff Bezos का quote है, मेरा quote नहीं है. Consumers will demand more, will want to pay less, and will demand faster, more convenient, efficient things. That is A. That's not changing. Consumers are that. B, the cost for businesses will always go up. Inflation, employee expectation, input cut cost, etc., etc. C, a business exists to make a profit. It doesn't exist for charity. It is not a charitable institution wherein if you don't make money, you're okay. When you marry these three things, divinely discontent customer, rising costs, and business under the pressure of making money, you will see that quality will go down. There are businesses who say that we will not be able to service this in this market, and we will not service. Like, there's a company called Abbott. I can talk about it loudly on the internet. Abbott used to make heart stents. When you do an open heart, you put a stent in the heart. Are you aware of that? Now, Abbott got out of India market. They said that we cannot service India market because Indians expect lower costs. They are okay to compromise on quality. But Abbott said that we will only service a certain quality, and India is not ready for it, so we will not service India. And they went out of the country, man. Like, immense respect for that brand. Example one. Example two, there's a payments company called Stripe. They offer digital payment solutions to global businesses. They don't service India. You know why? Because they think that India is a very, very tightly regulated market. They are unable to do that, and they are unable to match the expectation of Indian customers and the money they pay and the business volume that they can generate. So Stripe has taken a decision to not support Indian businesses. So there are companies who are doing that, right? There are companies who say that we will only offer a certain kind of quality. But are there Indian companies that have taken that stand? None comes to my mind right now. There are no companies that I can think of who've said that हमारा तो cost इतना ही है, आपको खरीदना तो खरीदो, नहीं खरीदना तो आप घर जाओ. I do not know who those companies are. So that.
No, I remember there were a bunch of brands. There was Cinnamon Kitchen that appeared. इतना सा उसका पैकेट था. I think back in the day it was $70 जब उन्होंने Shark Tank में आए थे. And I think अभी भी उनका कुछ प्राइस उसी रेंज में है.
Okay.
And it's about 20 grams. जितना आज की rate में आपको, you can imagine how much 20 grams would be.
Yeah. Yeah.
Same goes for Getaway. Getaway का भी pricing was on the higher side, and they said because हम keto वगैरह भी बनाते हैं, so it takes fresh cream and etc etc. So when they're justifying the price कि हम इतना high price रखेंगे, and then they skimp on the quality, that becomes an issue. I'd say
Absolutely.
कि मतलब आप
No,
कह
I
रहे
can
हो
imagine.
कि we will not be pricing it cheap, but then when you're putting in cheap ingredients, that becomes a problem, or your claims do not meet the expectations.
I think that is an easy one. What do you call it? Expectation and reality का जो gap है ना, that is where I think the math is. So if you tell people that they expect X to consumers and then you deliver Y, that's a problem. So you need to be able to do that. In fact, it reminds me, there's a friend of mine, she's trying to put a cat food business and I helped her with some bit of branding and all of that. She started the business and she didn't go ahead with launching of the business because she said that the amount of money that I need to deliver great cat food and amount of money that customers pay in India, there's no match to it. And she says, I will rather not do the business than feeding shit food to cats. And immense respect for that woman, and I love it. A lot of people don't do that, but I think that's your answer. I mean, that's my thought. That's my answer. Yeah.
Right. I have another question along the lines of this. A lot of brands are nowadays marketing themselves as conscious. H&M ke labels where you often come across the word conscious, right? And they
Yeah.
talk about how they've used recycled material, etc., etc. And they've also got some sort of scheme where you send some of your clothes or you drop a bag of clothes and they give you some sort of coupon.
Oh, is
I've
it?
heard.
Nice.
Uh,
Nice.
yeah, I've heard they've got some scheme going on. Uh, I'm not sure if it's working now or not. I haven't been to H&M in a very long time. Uh, Now the question is, a lot of brands say that they're very environmentally conscious because Gen Zs are environmentally conscious. A lot of them say that we want to know where, for instance, our beans are coming from. Blue Tokai ka
Yeah.
owner, he actually said that when he puts in the name of the estate, etc., etc. Uh, he's doing that because, especially because one, to give sort of recognition to the farmer or the grower of the coffee bean, and the second thing is because the consumer wants to know, the consumer wants to be aware. So he's more conscious of where he's consuming his coffee from, whether it's sustainably grown or not, all those things. But what I see is there's this difference between what Gen Z says and what they do. So, like for instance, if you're saying you want to be sustainable, you want to be conscious, first of all, you would not go to an H&M to shop for your clothes. That's the bottom line, right? I don't think it makes any sense for you to say that I want to be sustainable, and then you go to a place that employs cheap labor in the third world, hardly getting paid, and they're making all your clothes, and those countries are not even benefiting as much. Right. You may have Bangladesh's GDP a little higher, etc., etc. But the problem is that Bangladesh overall is not a developed country to begin with. Are the wages fair? No, they're not. Are they environmentally conscious? No, they're not. Is H&M actually conscious as a company? No, it's not. So when you talk about being conscious, being aware, do you actually preach or do you actually practice?
So here's the thing. We spoke about the times that we live in. Bob Dylan का गाना याद आता है. The times they are changing. So today, there are two things to it, and this is a cynical version of Saurabh talking, and you can discard the cynicism when you listen to this conversation, Juhi. Uh, there are I'll throw some keywords first and then I'll build my case. So greenwashing, right? We know that phrase. Companies
Yeah.
do a lot of greenwashing only to appear green and environmental conscious and so on and so forth. And you know it and I know it, and we don't have to get into the details of greenwashing. Everybody knows it. I'm assuming whoever here is listening will know what greenwashing is. If you do not know greenwashing, then please don't listen to the next episodes. So that's one. Second, there is something called posturing. You know, and I've used this example a lot of time in a lot of conversations. If I ask you, Joey, do you respect your parents? There is no way you will say no. If you ask this question to anybody, even if they don't get along well with their parents, they will not say no because they want to be able to come across as a certain kind, which is a morally, ethically, socially acceptable version of them in the larger world. So if you ask a young person, do you want to consume a green brand or you want to consume a safe brand or you want to consume a socially conscious brand, there is no way somebody will say no. Now, adding a layer on top of it, often it has also become a show off thing. Hey, I am somebody who wears organic cotton. I am somebody who's only wearing devices that are 100% recyclable, Apple devices, right? So it has become a statement that you make. Back in the day, the statements that you made is, oh, I read V.S. Naipaul and I am a certain kind of a person. Oh, I read, I don't know, Amrita Pritam and I am a certain kind of a person. The kind of things that you consumed shaped your identity. Similarly, I'm actually right in the middle of writing a book, and there's a character in the book that I'm writing. It's a young girl in that book. She has a tote bag which has three pins on the tote bag. One is about save the Mollem forest in Goa. She's never been to Goa in the book, and she's put a pin called Save the Mollem Forest. She's got a pin of Save Palestinians. She has no understanding of the crisis. And the third thing is allow abortion legally in India, whatever. The three pins. Now, I'm sure, and this is a fictional character that I'm writing. I got inspiration of this character by talking to a lot of these young people. Like this young person I know on WhatsApp, his status says Palestine this, Palestine that. I said, can you please tell me the crisis of Palestine in one line? And he could not explain that to me, Juhi. For him, it was fashionable to come across as somebody who cared for Palestine as a region. I'm not saying it's good or bad. I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I have no opinions on that. I'm not that educated to be able to give a discourse on Palestine here, right? But if you marry the three things that I told you about, A, businesses are toting the line of what consumers need, greenwashing. B, there is something called posturing, wherein I want to come across as nice, polite, great human being. And C, third is this thing that makes me acceptable in certain cohorts of the society. If you marry the three, and this is cynical Saurabh talking about this, if you marry the three, you will start to see the facades that people put in front of them. Like there's a friend of mine who says, oh, I read. And I said, last book kya padhi hai? He says, no, you know what, last 1 year I've not read. I'm like, अच्छा उसके पहले तूने क्या पढ़ा था? It took him 3 minutes to come back and say, अच्छा मैंने ये पढ़ा था. I don't know what to tell him, and he's my age, man. Like he's like really good friends with me, and I told him कि भाई क्या कर रहा है? क्यों मतलब what is the point of saying that you read? If you ask me, do I read? My narrative has changed. I am accepting that I do not read anymore. There was a time when I had read like so many books and more, but I don't read anymore today. So coming back to your question, I lost the track of the conversation. But if you marry these three things, Juhi, you are able to see through the facades that people have put into their lives. And the moment you do that, you start looking at the world a little differently. And you're able to slot people कि ये authentic है, ये persona create कर रहा है, ये झूठ बोल रहा है और ये clueless है. And then you can react and act with those people accordingly. Also look at it as a mirror. मतलब मेरे केस में I'm 80% true to myself. I'm 80% authentic. 20% I'm fake. मतलब like for example, if somebody says, what do you think about environment? I'm very, very vocal कि environment होगा, but मेरे को मेरा AC चाहिए. I need my AC to be on 16 all the time. I don't care about, I care about environment, but I will care about it from a air conditioned room. People tell me, अच्छा, carbon का क्या हो रहा है? I'm saying great for carbon, but I'm okay to talk about it. But I'll take a flight to come to where you are. I will not take a train or a bus. So I am very, very clear about where I'm at. May not be best, may not be easy, may not be comfortable, but I have been able to come to this acceptance for self in a certain manner, in a certain time. So coming back to what you are saying, I think moment you have these 3 or 4 filters, I think you start looking at things in a little more clearer manner. So yeah, that's my thought.
Again, borrowing from what you mentioned earlier, the free Palestine, etc., etc. Do you think people are fully informed generally when they have these discourse on the internet,
No, they
or
are
are they
not.
just simply jumping on the bandwagon?
They are not. अभी तुमने बात करी, they are not even reading stuff. मतलब like till date. I mean, I want to claim that I probably know more about the entire Palestine story than more than 80% of people that I interact with. I can be very, very confident, and yet I I refuse to go up on a public platform and talk about it because I know that I have only read one side of the story. I've only spoken to one side of people, and I only know one perspective of it. And the world that we live in, there is so much misinformation, there is so much confusion. I don't even know what is correct, what is not. Like if you ask me, forget Palestine तो बहुत दूर है भाई. मेरे को इंडिया का हिंदू मुस्लिम नहीं पता है. मेरे को मैं I live in Bombay. I don't even know, living in Bombay, that this entire narrative or about Marathi, non-Marathi, what is that stand for? I do not know why Marathwada wants to be separate from the rest of Maharashtra. So I'm saying, despite reading, I do not want to take stands, and yet there are people who take stands. Obviously, there are people who are very, very well read about it. Obviously, there are people who are extremely passionate about it, and their lives get impacted. Like there's a friend of mine who literally comes from, my sister's friend, not my friend, my sister's friend. She is from Gaza. She lives in Canada from Gaza, and she obviously speaks very, very passionately about that cause and that place that she comes from, and it's amazing because her life is getting impacted. But mere case mein, I'm not passionate, I'm not well informed, and I'm also okay to say sorry to you, Juhi, saying ki yaar nahi, mere ko nahi pata. Let's not talk about that. So that's me. But there are people who are very, very fast to jump on to conclusion. We are recording this conversation, by the way, on May 22nd, 2026. In the last 3 days, there is this new thing that has come up in India called the Cockroach Janta Party. I do not know how many of you
Yeah,
have you read about that? Oh
I
man, it
literally
is,
Googled it this morning.
yeah, it is insane. People are calling it that. People are saying that it is the uprising of Indian youth. The way Nepalese parliament changed, the way the thing happened in Bangladesh, the way it is such a cool thing, and I see my friends taking sides of Cockroach Janta Party. I have my friends taking sides against Cockroach Janta Party, and here I am thinking कि भाई ये 3 दिन पहले हुआ है. How am I to even take sides? I don't even know what's happening. I don't even know what's there. So people are already taking sides. It's amazing. It's just so crazy. Like I have a friend who's a journalist, and she's saying that Mr. Modi has given a toffee to a lady in Europe, and all
The
the news
Prime Minister
articles
of
are,
Italy.
yeah, I mean the toffee to a toffee, right? Toffee to a toffee in person. I'm saying, maybe there is a. So I'm not inclined towards the policies of, let's say, the current ruling party of India. I'm very vocal about that. But maybe there is a reason why he's done that. Maybe he wanted to get something great for the country out of that PR that he's getting for free. Maybe there is merit in what he's doing. Maybe there is no merit in what he's doing. Bro, I don't even know what he's doing. So who am I to go out in the world and publicly diss what he's doing or publicly support what he's doing? So coming back to your question, are people informed? I'd say they are not informed, and it's a sweeping statement I'm making, and I hope I'm wrong about it. But at least the people that I interact with, a lot of them are not informed about it, and they want to just posture कि देखो मेरे को ये पता है. That's the other. I'll give you another example that is probably the funniest of them all. I have a friend who's extremely passionate about cricket to a point that you ask him that he's got tattoos of the dates when India won the Cricket World Cup on his body. He's that passionate. I asked him, tell me names of 10 players of Indian cricket team that are in the national cricket team. He didn't know that. And he follows IPL and he follows cricket. And he's got tattoos. He doesn't know there is so much happening around here that despite him being an ardent follower, he didn't know. He knew which team is at the peak. He knew which team is not doing well. He knew all of that. But he didn't know 10 players who play, 11 by the way, not 10, 11 players, whatever. People who play for Indian cricket team. I don't know that. I mean, and here is a guy who's extremely passionate about cricket. So I think the world that we're living in is becoming very, very interesting to say the least. And let's see how that pans out for us as a society, as a country, as a world. But yeah, that. Sorry, I can be passionate about how the world around us is.
No, this is great. I think that's the end of my questions. The question part say.
So this was the first episode of Juhi Meets Saurabh, and we spoke about I do not know what all. Thank you for tuning in. Hope you next time around as well. See you around. Have a good day. Please be informed. Please read. If you want to read a copy of Count of Monte Cristo, send me a message and I will send a book to you. Thank you.